Hi guys, it's Lynn with Soft Squares. Today I'm going to teach you how to make a hot pad. This is a 9x9 with a pocket. They're easy and sewing machine friendly. Hi, we're going to make this hot pad and make a buddy for it. To get a pair of two, it's going to have a big 6-inch pocket, a 9x9 square. It has a loop and it has Insole Bright in it, and we quilt it. You don't need a pattern. I'll give you all the sizes that you need. If you need more help, reach out to me. But I made a couple extra just to give you some alternative ways to do it, where you can mix up the fabrics, or you can do the same like I've done on this. Look how cute they are. So this is the one where I've mixed up the fabric on the loop and the little pocket. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is get some batting and the Insole Bright. We're going to get two 9-inch squares. We're going to make a pair because to me everything should be in pairs. So you're going to get two 9x9 squares of batting and two 9x9 squares of Insole Bright. And what Insole Bright is it's the, I'll show you, it's the material that's kind of metallic-y, that's good for reflecting heat. It's what you want in a hot pad or a trivet or a coaster, specifically in these. So you also need one 6x9 square piece of batting, and that will be for the pocket here. Then you're going to need some material and some thread. I just stuck with white thread on this. I didn't change anything up, but then I played with my decorative stitches. Can you see that? That's really hard to see, and that's okay. I didn't want it to be a focal point, but this is where you can play with that on your machine. Basically what I've done though is put a quilting binding on these. So if you know how to bind even a little bit, you'll be fine. So I'm going to walk you through the step-by-steps on how to do that, and I think you're going to like it. All right, so after you have cut your batting and your Insole Bright, you're going to take two 9x9 squares for each hot pad. Now, if you want the front and the back to be the same, like I did on these, have the fabric be the same, you don't have to. So you're going to put the Insole Bright on the bottom layer and then the cotton on the top, or the regular batting on the top, and sandwich it in with the top and the bottom layers, and I'll show you how that goes. And then you're going to get your pocket, do the same thing, and you're going to quilt it. And I don't know if you can see this because the point is it's kind of invisible, but there's little straight stitches running through here. It blends in really well. You can see it better on the yellow because the print is not the same as the other one. But it doesn't matter what you do, just quilt it somehow. But you do want to end up with the insulated side closest to the back. So sometimes the top stitch doesn't always look as good as the bottom stitch, meaning you might want to flip it over when you do your quilting stitch instead of quilting it with the Insole Bright on the bottom like you're probably thinking you normally would do, because the bottom layer just through. Flip it over like this and go through the machine so that your top stitch that shows up here is better if you have some inconsistency between your stitches. That's just a little tip that's not even that big of a deal. All right, so now I have labels, so I put the tags in here, and I'm really bad at remembering them, so it just ended up that each pair only one of the hot pads got a label. This one I put it on the back side. Here's the set and here's the label. I think I prefer it on the back. However, the reason for the Insole Bright being on the bottom is because that's what I expect to be closest to the heat, and it's probably better on the front. Now that I look at it closer, I like the idea of it being on the front. I was just thinking it's just more discreet on the back, but really that's what's going to be touching hot surfaces, and I'm not 100% sure how that label is going to hold up with hot surfaces. So anyway, I would put it on the front going forward. So anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a binding on the top of this. Now I did not match the top and the bottom of the pocket because you don't see the inside. So I put some fabric I didn't really care about. It still looks cute if you should peek in there and see it, but it's not the same because I wanted to use as much of this as I could. I did the same over here. I just put white on the inside. So you can make it the match, or you can do what I did and put something inside that's not as big of a deal but still matches. Then you do your quilting. I like to be a little more simple on the pocket. You can embroider words, you can applique, you can embroider, you can do whatever you want. I use a machine stitch on this one. This is a really cute one and I like it because it just jumps out. Play with your stitches and your threads. Okay, so on this one I have a little thicker seam than I do on this one as far as on the pocket. Just whatever you end up doing, make sure your set is consistent. Hopefully that makes sense. So on this set, they're both thicker. And on this set, everything's exactly the same. And to me, this is still a set because they coordinate and they're made exactly the same way with the loops. So I'm going to show you how I put these together real quick by basically machine stitching, machine quilting, and then put the pocket on it. You sew your binding on. I always sew the binding on the back and flip it to the front. You're going to want to use pins to hold this in place. And then the biggest trick is this. This is a 2" by 7" strip. You're going to fold it in fourths and stitch it on the edge so you don't have any exposed seams. You may want to switch your threads out. On this I just left everything white, but then you want to make sure it is exactly in the center on the back. So with it being 9 inches wide, 4.5 is your mark. So find that mark, put these together, and then before the binding even goes on, I do a double stitch, and every time I went over this, as well as the side seams here, I did some extra stitching because there's a lot of stress that's going to go on those, and I just like to be extra secure. So that's it. It's basically a mini quilt. I personally don't worry about the insole bright in the pocket because that's all it is more decorative. This is what will be used towards the pan. However, a lot of people that I've given these to, and I've made hundreds of these, a lot of people like to use it as an oven mitt, which I think is kind of interesting. I don't know how they do it. Anyway, if you plan on using this at all near the hot surface, put some insole bright in there. Mine was intended to be decorative, but I think it's turned out that more people are using either side. I maybe should just start adding that insole bright knowing that people do that. Anyway, so there's my famous and amazing hot pad. Hopefully you enjoy it. So with our hot pad, we need insole bright, which is an insulated batting. And as you can see when I pull this back, it's shiny and has some metallic in it. Different brands and different batches have a little more the silver look to it than others. This one doesn't have a ton, but it is still doing its job. But the point is, I need some 9" pieces of this. There's my batting. Alright, so I'm going to make 4 hot pads because I like to make them in sets. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. First we start out with a 9" piece of insole bright and then a 9" piece of cotton. And I don't think it matters which way it goes, but I like the shiny part down because that will be towards the back of the mitt or the pad. I haven't seen where it makes a difference. That's my preference. Now I've gone through my scraps. None of this has been pressed yet, but I will do that. And this is my top orientation, so I have to decide if I want my stripes to go this way or this way, and I do want them to go this way. So here's my top. Again, it's a 9" piece, and I'm making 2 of them. So I've got the second piece here. I'm going to show you as we go for both pieces. Insul Bright face down, batting, and then my striped fabric. So there was that. You have our 2 pieces. And then we need to make a pocket. My pockets I do at 6x9, so these are big hot pads. So all I do on the pocket part is put batting in it. Okay, so again, it's not pressed, but that's what's done. And then we need a piece on the pocket, but we need to put something on the back side of it. Oh, by the way, I have got 2 pieces of fabric that are the same. Oh, I just lied to you about that, didn't I? Here's the other pieces. Front and back. Front and back. You can make the back a different color. I like to make them the same, but it'd be really cute to match your pocket to the back side or whatever you feel like doing. Anyway, so here's my, here we go, my 9x6 pocket, but we do need something on the inside. Now, I would like to make my prettiest fabric usable, and if there's something I don't need or like that does coordinate, I put that on the inside of the pocket because you're really not going to see it, but you might. So in this case, I'm going to put this green. It's not quite the right shade of green. I didn't really want a green pocket, but it'll be really nice on the inside of this pocket because you really will only see it when it kind of happens to be open for just a split second. So it will coordinate, and I will make that fit even though it's a little bit off on its size. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, there's a couple different ways that you can do this. You can sew it like this, flip it over, and then peel it back. Did any of this make sense? So your seam, just like making a bag. I'm still not coordinated. So then it looks like this, and your top seam is right along the fold, like that. It'll look more better. It will look better. Or you can do a little binding on it. And I personally like to do the binding around the quilt, the mini quilt. So what I thought would be really cute, plus it makes the pocket bigger, is to do this. So what I did is I took a 2-inch piece by 9, and this will get folded over like a binding. So it'll be doubled over like this, attached to the back, flipped over to the front, and it will look like that, but a little cleaner. Let's do this. There's our visual. Okay. And this one I'm going to do the same way. Then what's left is to do the loop as far as cutting out a piece, and then the binding. Now I have gone through my scrap bins, everything that's left over, and I organize it by size. So these are all my 2.5-inch leftovers. And I've already gone through here and found these 3 pieces that are substantial of fabric that I think I could pick from to do this project, to do my outer border. And then you still have your loop, so you can choose to make the hanging loop the same as your binding. You can pick it the same as this. It can be anything you want. It can be completely different. I'm just gonna keep it the same, partly because I don't have any more of this fabric. But that would be cute. But there's so much going on between stripes and polka dots and little swirls. I'm gonna keep this the same. So anyway, now to decide which one of these I want. Let's get our other one out here. And this is really not going to be, yeah, it's not going to fold over, but that's okay. You see how that works. So here's one that's a nice option. Let's see. Now keep in mind, you're only going to see a tiny, tiny bit of it. Okay, so there's one. Actually, let's do it with this one. More realistic. And we have a shadow. So there's that one. Another option is this yellow. Now what's interesting about this is this dark color is not up here, but the light color and the green are, and it ties it together. And on the back, all you're going to see is this stripe and this. So you have to look at it and think, is it going to match enough that you like it and you can stand it? If you need it to be exact same colors, there's no dark up here, and it might drive me crazy. I haven't decided, but I do like the idea of the darker accent. If you put lighter colors, especially on your binding or even on these hot pads, you're going to get a lot of spills and stains and grease and finger oil. Darker colors are a little better, so I like the idea of the dark. Another option is, put this over here, yellow. Now this yellow is good. It matches really well. So that makes it nice and light and bright, cheery. Of course, you won't have raggedy edges, but that's really about all you're gonna see on it. That's cute. And actually, kind of, sort of something like this. We're gonna do it just like this, but for this display, I'm not going to. Let's put this on the other one the same way. There's my edge, and that's kind of a rough looking edge. I won't actually use that piece, but I guess you could do 4 different colors if you really wanted to. You're barely gonna see this though. I'm making this a lot whiter than it will be because it's just too hard for me to do all of this right now. So again, that's still wide. Really quite right. Ooh, okay. There's one idea, there's another idea. Here's another one. This bright pink. Not everyone's a fan of pink, so I don't know. It really depends on who it's going to, how you're going to use it. Again, this is going to be doubled over like this. It's going to be a lot thinner than what you're seeing. Even this will be. I just was able to do it. Okay. All right, so there's some ideas for the borders. I'm not liking the pink as much as I thought I would. I'm not on there anymore, am I? I'm kind of thinking one of these 2 colors. I don't have a 4th option. Actually, I do have a 4th option. The 4th option is I have some more fabric that matches the pocket, and I can put it around here, but when you get down here it's going to completely blend in, which might be what you want. It's not as bright, but that is another option. I think I've decided I do have quite a bit of this fabric can do this, I have decided not to, but that is another option you could do, is blend with that. I have something else in mind for that. All right, so I'm not liking the pink. I just feel like there's too many stark contrasts going on. I want to keep it in the blue-green family, and yellow qualifies. So again, here's the back. Oh, I don't have the back on the back. But you're gonna see like a really big piece of this. And on the back side, this is all you're gonna see up next to it. So the fact that these are slightly different colors kind of is not what I usually do. I just love that fabric. So on the back, it kind of doesn't look like it goes with it. I see the light blue, I see green. There's not this dark. I'm really not liking the overall look from behind. I think I'm gonna do yellow, even though it's on the light side, which I just said try to avoid. Actually, I would avoid white. Light is okay, it's white. So that's what we're gonna do with these. Both of these are gonna make the same. I'm gonna make my hook out of this. Also depends on how much fabric I have because it's left over. If I can go around both, could measure it, but we're already here. I'll give myself some extra. Oh yeah, yeah, we can do it. We have enough for two. Not gonna cut that yet. And then I have this, about this much left over, and I need to make 2 loops. So, and I want to be able to join these. Oh, I think we're good with that. That's gonna have some extra. Need to press all of this. All right, so then we have this. And I don't feel like that's enough to really work with. Go back in my bin and see if I have more yellow or more options. More than likely I don't have any more yellow because it would have been together. I do have more of this fabric. So I have more fabric. Is you need about 7 inches to do your loop. And I could do 1, but I can't do 2. And I think the blue will be cute. So here's my hanging loop, which will be put together like this, and then over like this, and sewn a little seam. So this is all the wider it will be. You could make it a little thinner if you wanted. I like it this thickness because then it's gonna look very similar to the binding thickness. And then we're gonna sew it on so that they both, your loop looks like this. This will go back here. The yellow will go around. Trust me, it'll be really cute when we're done. Let's press this stuff. Oh, and then after we press it, we're gonna quilt. We're gonna quilt both the pocket and this separately. You can do it however you want. If you have a machine embroidery that has some quilting on it, you could like applique something on here, or you can get something that has an all over print. You also can just like straight lines or decorative stitching. And honestly, with the stripes on here, I'm thinking I'm just gonna make some vertical lines that follow the stripes. Otherwise it just seems like there'd be like even more pattern to focus on that. Could make you cross-eyed. So, but down here, sometimes what I've done is I've gone right through the middle with just a cute decorative stitch. You just need enough that it's not gonna, the batting's not gonna bunch up, and you need about 4 inches or less between your seams. And this is 6 inches, so we're gonna be close to like 5.5 of open, and it just has an ability to bunch and not look very good after it's been washed. So doing something, so at least one through the middle. You can take rickrack, you can take a really cool decorative stitch and go through there. Sometimes I've done a straight stitch and then a decorative stitch and then a straight stitch. Really, you have all kinds of options, or you can just stitch like that. One thing I would recommend that you be really careful with is if you decide you want to do vertical lines like this, and you're doing vertical lines back here, either have them match up or intentionally have them not match up. But if they're random and they sometimes match up and sometimes don't, it will look like it's a mistake or just not as intentional. And if there's certain people like me, that your eye will catch that and it'll drive you crazy. So I would just recommend maybe going a different direction. Or when you quilt these, you can actually put these like this and run it through the machine at the same time and go all the way through. Now I'm going to show you how I put it together. This is put on just before the binding. Let's press it, quilt it, assemble it. I think we've gone through the most time-consuming part, is figuring out what to use. That is how you make batting, bigger pieces of batting. Okay, so now we can make our little sandwich. And I know it's a little big, but I will trim it down later. It really does not matter for the sake of quilting, because I know the size of the main piece. Just make sure it is at least covering. It is. So now, yeah, I'm going to trim all that off in a little bit. My wrist does not like me. All right, so I have a lot of different colors in my pile here with the 4, and I do have white thread in, and sometimes it makes sense to change the thread color. Like I could do white when the binding and stuff. It might look better to switch it to a blue. So in case I decide to do that, let me see how much there is to do. And you sometimes also I'll do like a coordinating color of thread, not necessarily, or a contrasting complementary color of thread. So I might do yellow, might do white, or I might pull the blue up into that. So same with this. Here's the pink. I think this would make sense to put pink on there. I think the blue we can get away with white because there's white running through it and it's a lighter, not as stark color as this. But I will be quilting this in white. And then we have this one, and these two are exactly the same. So I'm thinking blue, because blue would be nice on this, nice on this, nice through here. I could even quilt this in blue. And I might even leave the thread in there to do the border or binding, but yellow or something complementary. I don't think I want to leave white in there, although white could work, because as I look closer, there's white there, there's white there, there's white here. it just will draw attention to the stitches if it doesn't match the fabric. So if you want it to stand out, use a different color. If you want it to blend in, use the same color. And I have some options with this. I think I'm going to stick with quilting all of the backs with white and quilting all the fronts with white too. I have something in mind for that. So right now I'm going to do my quilting because I know I can use the white for that. I'm trying to keep all my little sandwich families together. So here we go. First thing on here, I'm going to do straight lines. I think that would be the least obvious. And I want to do them kind of staggered. I could put them anywhere. I think I'm just going to follow the white. Put lines in the white. Now on the back, it's not going to matter. And the reason I say back, really it will probably be the front. Does that make sense? So when I stitch this down, I want this to be on the back side of the pocket, but this whole of the pad, but this whole thing on the back side is exposed, and sometimes the threads on the back are not as pretty, so it actually makes sense, especially if you're going to see the tension, to sew with the tinsel side up, so that this is a nicer looking surface, because when you put this together with the pocket, you only have 3 inches of this showing. Everything down here is covered by the pocket, so you're going to see more back here. So going back to what I was saying, I don't think I'm going to follow a white line. It doesn't really matter because it's not going to line up. Maybe what I'll do is 1 inch. Now keep in mind this is going to be in the binding, and it's 9 inches. So if you really want to be specific, you could start in the middle, find that middle mark, and then go out, or you could start one side and go to the other. Maybe we'll do the middle mark just to see how that works. This is 9, so 4.5 is right here on this pink line. So that's the center. I would recommend lengthening your stitch because you have a lot of stuff in here. You could even do an embroidery thread to get a little thicker thread, and you may want to even go over things more than once. I would also recommend that you do not use polyester or rayon because they can melt with the hot temperatures of the hot food in the oven. So cotton is really what you want to be using on this. If you can, leave it in one continuous thread. Gives you less edges to come out. Now let's see if I'm at the 1 inch mark, and I can see on my machine that's 1.5 right there from my needle. I think that's a nice size. So let's come down here, 1.5. This is where the tape would be helpful because it's longer, but I can see this is lining up with my 1.5 inch mark on here. So I want to keep it as straight as I can. The nice thing about the lines on here is, even though they're a little wobbly, they make it easier to sew straight line. When it's not a pattern with a line, I tend to kind of go all over the place. You want to go as close to the edge as you can. And we're just kind of guessing when we start out, and I happen to be guessing pretty good. Follow that line. Now one thing I am going to do that will make my life so much easier when I get to doing the binding. There's going to be a lot going on when I add the binding and I won't be able to see all this. So I like to come around this edge and try to close it up. Keep everything together. Plus, I don't have to break my thread before I go to the other side. It might not be perfect. I might even not catch all of it. But in general, you're good. Okay, so here's our middle mark. Now we're gonna try to find that 1.5 inches. Oh, I did it again. If it doesn't match up, just go forward or backward on the edge and get you where you need to be, or slightly ease yourself into where you want to be. If it's like a matter of 1 or 2 stitches, you won't even see you easing your way over. Nope, not enough. Oh, actually, I'm not going to tie that off just yet because, I mean, you can, but I need to actually attach this. Oh, I'm not ready. Never mind. Okay, now on this one, I'm going to do just a straight stitch near the edge of, whoop, let's get that where it needs to go. Just barely on. I think white on the blue will be just fine. It's not very noticeable. Okay, so now that we have this, we're going to loop it and put it on here. Now I already found the middle because that's where I started my quilting. And I can decide to do my loops on the inside or do my loops on the outside. Whatever I do, it needs to be consistent. And I kind of want the threads cleaned up because this might hang out a little bit. Not hang out, but like up on the scissors. Come on. I'm having a scissor dilemma. Okay. Didn't I decide I wanted to do my things on the outside? I still like it on the inside. I'm going to do the inside. Alright, so this is my center line. I want to put, I don't know if you can see it, my 2 ends right up to it. And pinning in place is probably a good idea. And then what we're going to do is we're going to tack it, but up near the top because we want it to get caught in the border or the binding. But I don't want it to be low enough that it's visible. When we put the binding on. I think this one's going to be easy because we're going to, Actually, I want to go over this a couple times, doing my reinforcing. And I'm just actually working my way up a little bit as I do that, just to get the seam more out of the way. It's just, there's a lot of stress that's going to happen on there. But there we are so far. And then what's going to happen is the binding will go on that, and it will actually kind of lift up from there. Okay, so this one, we have the pockets. All right, so I think I want to do a decorative stitch. Nothing too wild and crazy. Maybe scallops. You know what? I think I'll do straight because there's a lot going on. But I'm going to do more of a bolder straight. I don't know if you can see my stitches up here. I have lots of options. So I have options. So let's just see if there's something like this one right here is thicker. Let's see. This is more your darning stitches. These are really decorative, but this one, 78. I know you can't see that just yet, but 78 right here is a thicker line. So I'm going to put that in my computer here. I'm going to let it just do its thing. I'm going to find the center of this though. This is Disappearing Ink, and this is a Mark Begone. Now this is actually Mark Begone, and I think water soluble, air and water soluble. So I think this will just kind of disappear. If it doesn't, water. So let's try this. My 2 marks, you can see those. Enough. I guess another thing could be maybe to fold it and press it. Oh, and I'm going to do the same on both of these because these two are going to be identical. So since these are 6-inch squares and this is a 3-inch ruler and the center is 3, I don't think I need to find my center on here because this ruler pretty much does it for me. There. Ooh. That one's easier. In fact, I think it might just disappear before I get to this one. I have a fan blowing, and I wonder if that fan is going to be working against me right here. I guess we'll find out. Okay. So, we've got the stitch picked out. I've got my foot that has the line right on it, so it should be super easy. And as you can tell, this is like an embroidery type stitch because it reinforces itself, goes over it several times. So I'm just going to follow that line and go down this one as well as the other one. That is really cool. I like it. So I can choose to leave it. I can put words. I could, like I said, I like 3. And so I want to do like a stitch above it and a stitch below it, but I might change it to be a different stitch. Could be the same stitch just for fun. Let's just see what this looks like as it is. You might not need anything else. Let's just leave it. There's so many patterns going on, it will just make it busy. Okay, so now I'm going to sew my binding on to the pocket, and I want to start with sewing it on the back. So I went back to my straight stitch, and this piece is a little longer than it needs to be. That's okay. Doing quarter. So I know I don't need this top pin anymore. I'm going to leave the bottom pin in just because I might appreciate it later. So here's this. We're gonna go up and over. So I did a really small, scant, I don't even know what it was, not a 1/4 of an inch. It is a little less than a 1/4 of an inch. I used my regular foot, so that's why I wasn't sure. But anyway, so if I were to do this, I would fold it over and then I would tack it down, and it would definitely be below that seam, and you won't see this line going through here. If you want to be more like a traditional binding where they line up the same, although no one's going to see the inside, you could put the seam wherever you want. I wanted this. A decorative stitch right here would be cute too. I just don't want too much going on with this one. So there's our pocket, and there's the back of it. See, so you don't see it, but that's where that line shows up. If you choose to do a thinner binding or a thicker seam, it will line up better, but I did not care. I wanted it to be prominent on the front and not see that on the back. I did that one on purpose. So you can do whatever you want. So now we have 2 pads with the loop on it, and our pockets, and everything's quilted and ready to be assembled. Now obviously this is a little too big. I'm moving my pin so it's not going through all the layers, because this will want to move. You could put cute little phrases like congratulations, put the name, happy Easter, whatever you want. And I'm going to stick with white. So these 2 are both going to have the yellow binding on them. And this is super easy what we're doing next. So what you do is just pretend it's a regular binding. Give yourself some space. I'm going to actually start at the bottom because we're going to have a seam, and there's a lot going on right here, and there's a chance it could line up with that. Just more. Anyway, so I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to use the width of my foot. Now everything we've been doing up until then has been thinner, so it should all disappear. If it doesn't, I don't think it's going to show up anyway because of the color of the thread. But we're going to go to the corner. I like this method where you take it out on an angle. So you go the width of the foot and stop. In this case, it's the width of the foot. Take it off, and then from there I went up. So then we're going to take that up at 90 degrees, come down, line it up with the side, start on the edge, pick up the foot, come down. Now it might even make more sense with the pockets to maybe pin it a little closer because it's on the bottom side right now, just to make sure you can see it. You can hear that's a lot of layers. We've got 2 layers of batting, 1 layer of Insulbrite, 4 layers of fabric, and right here where I'm going over the pocket, which by the way I want to reinforce because there's a lot of stress that's going to happen on that pocket. Anyway, so then we have up to 8 layers of fabric depending on how that was. Anyway, now I have a label and I'm going to put my label in here. So you want to do it at this stage. Okay, now I have 2 types of labels that I've ordered. One is a fold over and one is a flat. And they came in sheets. I ordered them through a vendor on Etsy. But you just cut them out. So here's the flat one, which is really good for quilts. And I want to use the fold over one. So fold it in half. Doesn't matter that you see that little line because it's going to be in the seam allowance, but you want to make sure whatever you need to show up does. And in my case, I have to change where I fold it. Probably because I didn't cut it very good. So you can get labels that just say made by grandma or whatever instead of a business one. Now I'm not going to put this up here, I'm going to put it down here, but I wanted to have it ready because sometimes I get so excited I skip that part and I wanted to not skip it. Okay, so you want to make sure this is down or you're going to have a problem. And actually, here I go again. I'm going to go reinforce over that. It's a linism. I just want things to be strong, durable, made well. Hold up. Oh, there's that little thing. Okay, back over to the corner. Come off on an angle. This gives such a pretty point. You don't have to do that, but I like it. Go up, come down. Now I'm coming up on this edge and I am going to clip it because you know how it is when you're going against things on the bottom, things shift. So I don't want that to happen. That's right where the top of the pocket is. And I want to make sure it's flat because that is something that can, because you can't see it, cause a problem. Depending on where you want your label, if you want on the front, you could do it as we're flipping it over. If you want it on the back side, you can put it in here now. I'm thinking the back side will be fine. In the past, I've put it in the front coming off the side, off the pocket. I don't see any reason to have the label up front. It's just a pain. But something to keep in mind is this is not a very big seam allowance. So as you're putting it in your seam, you want to be aware of where it's going to come down. In my case, very aware. And I want it to go face up. So I'm going to actually place it right here and pin it. Oh, I don't want to pin it. It will actually make marks. I'm going to hold it. Let's get a little closer before we... Okay, so I'm just kind of eyeballing these stripes. Are very helpful. Right now, with the way this goes, my seam is actually really close to the green line. So if I were to stay consistent, I'm going to go right through my logo. And this just barely needs to go in the binding, but not a huge reinforcing thing. And I think we will do okay there. If not, we'll just... Oh look, and I happen to be on top of my seam. Okay, so before we do anything... Oh, look at that! Perfect! I like it. Okay, so I can probably go another stitch. And now we're going to go off. So far, just looking to make sure everything's good. It's really good. Really, really good. Okay, so now we're just going to start this corner, but then we're going to join that seam. So we're not going to go very far, but we need to get past the corner. so let me just double check the width of this. Some of my pieces ended up 2, some are 2.5. So the yellow is a 2.5 inch piece. So this is where you're going to overlap it 2.5 inches and then cut it. So actually, I'm not doing very well today. This thing is way too big. Okay, so see this? This is where it overlaps. Okay, I don't need that anymore. So here's my edge. 2.5 is where we want to be. So if I put that there, lay this down up to here, this is where I want to cut it. And it actually does not hurt to cut it a tiny bit smaller. It's easier to work with it being a little small than it is to be a little too loose. Scissors are not my wrist's friend. Okay, so now we're going to do a mitered seam. And it's going to be hard because this is little. I am going to pin this. Because this will shift on me. Wow. I probably came down just a little too close. A little too much. You know, this is not as hard as it looks. It's just I'm struggling with my hand. I'm trying to do too much too soon because I'm impatient. Okay, so let's clip this down here to keep it as secure as we can, corner to corner. That looks like it's going to be a challenge. Yes, it does. Let's go up a little bit. Now it's really hard to see the diagonal line right now. So let's try to straighten it the best we can, and we're coming down to here, so we're on the right trajectory. Before we do anything else, let's make sure it fits. Does. A little bit of a wobble in my seam. And you can see it too. See that? Although it's on the inside, so when I go up and over, it will not be there. It's an inside seam. So now we're going to trim this down to about 1/4 inch. Triangles for my collection. Come up here, start a little farther back. It's kind of ugly right there. It's on the inside. It's okay. Flip it over. Don't need that anymore. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, and I like to start in the corner. Just gives extra reinforcement, and then we have lots of threads. And part of it is because some of this fabric was cut a long time ago and in my scrap bin. So it's had the ability and opportunity to fray. If you just barely cut it, you shouldn't have as much of a mess as I do. But it is good to either snip them or get them tucked into the binding. That way way they don't get pulled on and help to undo your stitching. Now, this is the thickest part. I didn't reinforce it on this side, did I? Well, I'm going to. Because when you get the pocket in here, this is where people are going to be tugging. So it has extra reinforcements sewn down there and here, and I feel like it's a safety blanket, a little more secure. Do whatever form of binding technique you want to do here. So you want to pull this up tight, make sure it's not in the way, because it is really easy to get in the way or get forgotten about. Reinforcing underneath the seam. You can do more on top, but it is more clean looking if it's underneath. I'm still all for durability as opposed to doing it, but I think on this one it's okay. Sometimes you just need to. So now I've come to the corner. I want to come out just a little bit before I tack it off. Ooh. One thing I totally forgot about is making sure this is flat when I come over it, because it could be up like that. Really don't encourage you to put a pin in it, because this fabric is different and will make a hole, but I'm just lucky it didn't flip up. But I would encourage you to somehow keep track of it. Make sure it stays in place. Okay. The bottom will also get a little bit of tear on it, wear and tear, so it might not be a bad idea to just take, instead of ending it there, just going all the way to the corner and reinforcing it there. So here is a finished hot pad. Right there. Isn't it cute? Nice and springy. So I'm going to finish up the other one, and then I'm going to sew up the other two. And I'm also going to show you a variation on the pocket if you didn't want to do this type of a seam. So, be back. Oh, one thing, even though this is stitched in there pretty good, it's up to you you want to go across the front here with it up and just add a little more. Actually, I think I want to do that right now. Could have done that when I was doing the initial runaround. Just didn't think about it. And it just barely caught it, but that's okay because it's still in that seam, but it's also going up. Hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial on how to make a hot pad. Please leave comments below, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. I had surgery. My hair is up because I'm hot. And I can't do a whole lot. However, I can sew. Believe it or not, I can sew. We're going to do a hot pad today. And we probably won't show any of this part of the video. Hi guys, it's Lynn with Soft Scars. Do it again. So watch the